Hey gamers, I am absolutely excited to have Nymphie here with me to chat today. Thank you so much for joining me. You are a fan of Final Fantasy XIV and you stream. Do you want to tell the channel a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I uh, play games very badly, but people like to watch me suffer, so that's pretty much what I stream. I stream a lot of games. I do love Final Fantasy 14. It's an amazing game, and I mean, I literally want to adopt Yoshi P and hug him all the time. So
Aw.
it's definitely a good game to stream and stuff. I basically just do whatever all day. So I just like connecting with other people and having a safe place that's, positive and it's a community and I just that's what I'm doing. I just love building community.
Awesome. I love to hear it. And I think definitely this is a community that needs more positive content. And I think Yoshi P is a person who needs more love. He
He
doesn't
does.
seem like he takes care of himself very well.
Mm-mm.
Oh, yay. So we are going
Just
to talk
slide
about
snacks at him. Sorry.
exactly. Put him down to
Just slide
nap
snacks.
occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him head pats.
Hydrate. Okay. This is a podcast where we talk about how gaming has had a positive impact on your life. And so I will get started here. Can you break the ice by telling us a little bit about your earliest memories of playing video games?
Yeah, it's, like, really my fondest memories, honestly. I remember being a five-year-old little girl in the '90s to date myself, I'm sorry, but, like,
I feel that
um,
too.
my mom actually got me into gaming, which was back then a lot more rare. Um, women didn't always have the free time that we do, to play games and
Mhm.
just let loose, and it was interesting. She was a very typical, old school role housewife, but she would just get obsessed with Nintendo, like, so much that she would be like, "Come here," because she had no one else to play with.
Aw.
So, she'd be like, "Come here, I'm gonna teach you this." And, what she didn't expect is that I would be obsessed with it. So, it ended up me taking the controller from my mom all the time and ruining her fun. And just, like, getting good at the games, and then my mom and I would battle each other on, like there was a Tetris game, and I don't remember which one. It was one where there were, like, beer mugs, like, root beer mugs,
Oh,
I
weird.
think. And then you would, like there was fish and I don't know, it was a great game, and she enjoyed seeing me like something so much. So she got me my own Nintendo. It was for me, of course, not because I kept stealing hers. And,
Of course.
she and I would play, Super Mario All-Stars all the time, especially 3 on there. She loved the raccoon
Mhm.
tail, and she just really got me into it, and, it all solidified because my little brother, one Easter, ended up in the hospital, and they back then, they had, like, Nintendos in the hospital, so you could play Nintendo the whole time, so I was like, "I'll stay with him. I'll stay with him." I just played the heck out of I think I played till world, like, 5 or something in Super Mario 3 before she was like, "Okay, we're going home."
Oh.
So that's just it was just my mom and my, little brother and me just, you know, having fun with video games all the time.
That's really sweet. Did you have a favorite? Like, was Super Mario 3 your favorite game or
I think and it starts a lot of drama back in the day to say that it's a Final Fantasy game, but it says Final Fantasy right on it. There was an RPG called Final Fantasy Mystic Quest that came out,
Mm.
and the Final Fantasy, to be fair, was, like, really tiny print above Mystic Quest, but it was a Final Fantasy game. And, it was my first RPG, and I literally loved it. I loved the music and all the sounds and the cheesy chung ching ching and all that stuff.
Aw,
It was my favorite, I think.
awesome. So what is your all-time favorite game and why?
It's so hard. It's like when people ask you your favorite song or your favorite
Mhm.
movie.
Right.
Dang. Um, I think it would huh, it would probably have to be either it's like a mix between Legend of Dragoon for PlayStation
Mm.
1, I think,
Yeah.
or they're both PS1 games, or, Star Ocean: The Second Story, which just got an HD remake that I'm playing through, and it's so good.
Those
Those are
are
just
good games, yeah.
they just happened at times in my life where I really needed that distraction as a kid, and, like, they were something I'd never seen, like, just so immersive and fun and spend hours on there. Instead of getting into trouble, you just play video games all day.
Right, yeah. I remember back in the day when I first played through Legend of Dragoon, I was like, "Oh my god, this game is so pretty." And then I looked at it again, like, 5 years ago, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this Poly Nightmare."
Yeah,
What what was this? Was this the epitome of games back then?
it was.
But there are a lot of calls for Legend of Dragoon to get a remake. Like, I think
I
that would be a beautiful game.
I think that that would be a very smart business decision and a good
Mhm.
decision for my own bias. Yes, please. Like, that's one of them I'm hoping they reboot for sure. If they did Star Ocean Second Story, as big of a game as that is, I think they could pull it off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. Have video games impacted your social life and your relationships?
Yeah. Of course, it's a mixed bag because, um, being able to meet new people and unique people and people you would never meet just going down the street to the corner store, has
Mhm.
been really good. For me, I've really enjoyed all the people I've met, and surprisingly, taking
Nymphie.
away the physical aspect of how close you can get to someone who you're not actually seeing, basically. Um, but at the same time, it's easier to just like hunker down and not actually give any attention to people on the streets, so to speak. Um, and it's a blessing and a curse because I have tried to kind of like foray into, my physical community, and I notice there's just a disconnect a lot of times with finding people, randomly who you can become friends with as an adult. It's a lot harder. But
Mhm.
online, that's with games, you already have something in common. So you're starting off on a common ground and you can just go from there. Every partner I've had has been from a video game. So some of the most important people in my life ever were from video games. So it's definitely had a huge impact on me. And especially, I do have autism and some other stuff. And sometimes it feel kind of awkward, like kind of
Mhm.
alone, I guess, growing up in a small town in Iowa. So,
Oh.
there was nobody else, and then, like, you know, I discovered an MMO, and then I met good and bad people, but, I met a lot more good than bad, and it's been interesting to learn a totally different kind of social dynamic than what you're raised, in school being like, "This is how you properly say hello, and this is how this is
Right.
how you carry on a conversation, and this is how you end the conversation," and it's just a completely different thing, but yeah, it was amazing, kind of.
Yeah, no, and you bring up a good point. So I visited for a time, for about a year, a small town in South Dakota. And for anyone who doesn't live in those rural areas, like we are talking like a subdivision like 40 or so minutes away from the next nearest city of less than 2,000 people. Like these are very
Mhm,
small towns. And it is really hard to find people there that have common interests, like, especially if you're into gaming or into anything, that isn't very common in those
mhm.
areas. So it's
Yeah.
easy to feel isolated. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's gotten better, I think, since what would you say, like, 2010-ish?
Yeah, that's
Honestly,
about when I came back, yeah.
yeah, like, but in the probably, like, 1997 to 2003 was difficult, like, you
Mhm.
couldn't find anyone or you'd even get made fun of for playing games all the time. It's like I did a bunch of extracurriculars, music stuff and theater and all that, but then I would still get, bullied a bit because I would go home and play, N64 all day and not wanna, like, go do stupid stuff that didn't interest me, and I think
Right.
back then it wasn't as socially accepted to have your own like, I would rather do this and be honest about it. It was considered like, "Okay," you know? But I think that I'm really excited for people who are growing up now where it's accepted and you're kind of the opposite, like, it's a common thing. If you don't do it, it's like, "Really? You don't play games?"
No, that's a really good point, and I think, Felicia Day and the Guild sang a song on that. It's like, "Now I'm the one who's cool." Yeah,
Yeah.
because, it used to be, yeah, almost taboo, and now it's, geek is chic. Everyone is kind of
Mhm.
into it, yeah. What is your favorite gaming platform and why?
Hands down, PlayStation 2. It just
Ooh.
It it was a weird time in life, right? Because I graduated high school. Um, we had a lot of gaming platforms. We had GameCube, PS2. I think Xbox One was the only one out right then. And all the PS1 games I could still play on my PS2, and I had a Dreamcast and just like all kinds of stuff. But PlayStation 2, the amount of titles and the diversity in those titles was amazing.
Mhm.
And I loved the way that it played, so I think naturally a lot of my best memories of gaming are on PS2, and I still have it, so I still love it. It's like I was gonna build a shrine for it, but I thought maybe that'd freak people out, so I just have it on a shelf like normal, but I
Now,
definitely love the PS2.
did you have the optional hard drive for it?
Okay, so no cops around, right? I actually had a chipped PS2. I had a
Oh.
friend. He was like one of those savants who like dropped out of school and got their GED, but they got like 100 percentile tests, They just couldn't be
Mhm.
bothered. He was so cool. And he like soldered a chip into it or something, and I was able to like use a lot of ROMs and things to play old games on it. So it didn't
Oh,
have anything else cool, but that was my one thing. I was like, "This is like robot technology."
nice. Yeah, no, the PS2 was amazing. Like, that's when I first started playing, the first Final Fantasy MMO, which was 11, and you had to pick up the hard drive that attached to the PS2 in order to play 11 on because it needed more space, and
Oh, maybe
yeah.
that's why. I never got to play 11, but I kind of am sad that I didn't. I heard it
Mm.
was a whole other struggle.
It was a struggle. If you wanna kinda get 11 vibes in 14, go into Eureka.
See, I like Eureka. Everyone's like, "I
Hey.
hate this. I hate Eureka, God." I'm like, "I'll do it for you." I like it. I don't know. It's tough though. It really
It
is.
is. I just cleared Beldessian Arsenal for the first time yesterday and got my mount, so
Woo! Me
but, Eureka is definitely something different.
Yeah.
How do you balance your time between playing video games and other responsibilities or activities?
You know what? I'm not gonna fib at all. I'm terrible at it. I really am terrible at it. I hyperfixate and I hyperfocus and, I have, like, executive dysfunction, so, like, a lot if I get stuck in it, it's, like, all I do until I'm burned out, and the thing that's kind of balanced me is having pets that make you stop,
Mm.
you have to stop, you have to pay attention to your pets. People sometimes, not as much as pets.
People to a
Sometimes,
lesser extent, yeah.
you know? Just the thing that balances it is being there's stuff you can't not do,
Yeah.
and that pulls you away. But that's actually I know among myself and a lot of people I talk to, one area where we all kind of struggle and we kinda wanna get better at is, we all get excited and we just go in, and we don't come out until we have to. But I think having a schedule and making sure you stick to it can really help. So I've been trying to keep a somewhat schedule.
Yeah, what is the area of your life that has time taken away the most often? Like, do you sacrifice sleep or do you sacrifice outside time, or where do you normally cut those corners?
All of the above.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't even when I was younger, I think it had that effect on me, like, I would just stay up all night playing games. I would sometimes, like, put my clothes on for school because 'cause I'd stayed up so late and just nap for, like, 2 hours before the bus, you know? Like,
Wow.
I've always been like this, it's never getting better. But, I think I try to have bottom lines, right? So it's the same for people who struggle with anything, like, "Oh, I don't clean enough," or "I don't eat right," or it's like, just have a bottom line that you don't go under. For me, it's like with cleaning, it's like never let dishes sit in the sink, don't let garbage sit around, like same
Mhm.
for gaming, it's like, take a shower, call people and let them know you're alive, take care of yourself, eat, take care of your pets, leave the house once in a while. And as long as you just keep doing that, you just, surf the line. Surf the line.
No, that's good advice. So set your minimum standard and at least meet that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share a favorite video game memory or experience that has had a lasting impact on you?
Besides just growing up playing with my mom, and
Mhm.
having those memories long after she's gone, there would be I would say the guild that I was in World of Warcraft as a young girl. It was
Mm.
it was a whole thing, and I was in vanilla, and I was a hardcore raider, and I was, like, the healing raid lead, and it just the things you had to do in vanilla WoW to survive and complete raids were honestly, even today, just I don't think most people would do it. It was too much. Like, you would have to farm for, like, hours to get 1 resistance pot for raid, and you wipe once and it's gone. It's just then you can't raid
Mm.
because you can't do it without them, and oh, but it gave all of us in the guild a lot of time to bond and a lot of time to, like, get into shenanigans and, you know, back then, PvP was fun. So we would PvP, and we would have, like, Ventrilo back then.
Yep,
We'd all be
yep.
in Ventrilo, and just it was great. It was honestly the first time where I felt really cohesive with another bunch of people, um, that I wasn't just at work with or whatever, and we had so much fun. There's so much and I was the worst of us as usual, like, so many times I was working 2 jobs and raiding all night, and so, like, I had no sleep,
Wow.
and I would just pass out at the keyboard with my finger on W, and God forbid,
Ooh.
it's not like we were in molten core and I ran right into the major Dormo group, and wiped the entire raid with their resistance pods, and it's not like I did that in Blackwing Lair either, or, anywhere else.
Aw. Okay,
Memories.
important question, Horde or Alliance?
I was Alliance, and
Mhm.
then in Burning Crusade, I fell in love with Horde as well. So, because I was a Night Elf Druid main, and then I went to
Mm.
Blood Elf Paladin, so
The Blood Elf models were incredibly attractive when they came out, I got to
yeah,
admit. Yeah.
they were. Before that, I kind of liked the trolls. I liked the
Mhm.
trolls a lot, and the Torn are so cute, and I
The
actually
trolls
play
have
a
that surfer accent, don't they?
They do!
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually I am playing Classic, and I'm playing obviously a Night Elf Druid again, but also I rolled a Tauren, and I'm like, "I like this. This is fun."
Oh, man. No, it is nostalgic. It is nostalgic, and I love it. I still remember Alterac Valley. I don't think I
Yeah.
have quite the same experience with Frontlines as I did that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Those were some of the funnest, and remember, there was no timer on it at first,
Mhm.
so you could be in Alteryx Valley for over an hour and then just lose because people camped the room, and you're like, "Son of a"
Or like quad boxing, shamans, like, oh
with
my
their chain lightning,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember that was horrible, but it was fun horrible.
It always seems better after the fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think video games can be used as an effective tool for education or personal development?
Yes. Yes, I do. If you think about the kind of, structure of a video game, it's kind of like doing those things, but with fake rewards that we all love. It's like, you
Hit the
do this.
dopamine button, yeah.
Yep. You've spent the time, you've done the practice, you've executed this, and now you win and you get this. And it's the same in real life, but if you don't like the reward, you don't care, right? So,
Mhm.
I know that I worked with, um one of my main jobs in life has been with IDD and, working as a caregiver and as a nanny for special needs, children. I always used, like, ABC Mouse, I use which is a games, it's for kids, like
Mm.
coloring, math, the basics, but it's set up as a video game, and it was always so much easier than just talking to someone and making them do something like, "Here's how you draw a star." It's like, "Okay, cool, whatever." You put them on, "You wanna play ABC Mouse?" "Yeah." And then it's like, "Look, a star." And they're like, "Ooh, a star." It's like, "Well, what am I? Chopped liver, but okay." You know? And just
No.
so it helps. It's interactive and it definitely can help, definitely.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because in real life sometimes the rewards are obscure or delayed, like the you eventually learn something, but in a video game there's always that like fanfare or sparkles or fireworks that make you feel like you're being rewarded right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I leveled up at my birthday, 1 candle, okay? When I level up, it's sparks everywhere and glowing and da da da.
Exactly.
I'm doing a new thing on Classic WoW where I announce every time I level in the general chat just to be annoying.
You
I
ding.
hit level 2 and everyone's like, "Holy crap. Wait till you hit level 3." And I'm like, "I'm not ready."
Oh man. Can you name a game that has impacted or influenced you the most in life?
I would say it's a toss-up between WoW and Final Fantasy 14. I mean, it's
Mm,
impossible to play MMO as well, them doing that, that's the
yeah.
nature of an MMO, and WoW influenced my entire young adult life. And then I came on Final Fantasy in around 2015, so then my this half of my adult life so far has been influenced by Final Fantasy 14 and the people I've met there, and, it's like it's just you can't play an MMO like I do with hyper focus and it not impact it.
That is incredibly true. Um, do you have a preferred, sub-community within 14?
My FC is
Mm,
honestly made up of some of the best people I've met on the game, and, um, I used to be a role player. I still would like to be, but I'd have to kind of find a niche for that in the way it's changed because in 2015 when I came on, the role play community on, like, Mateus and Balmung and stuff was very rich, and there was always stuff going on and always these deep stories, and people were, like, looking for people to write stories and, "Hey," things have changed a bit, and it's gone a different direction than I want to with my role play, that's how I'll say it. I
that's a
think we
good way
all
to say
know what I mean.
it.
We all know what I mean. And so it's a lot harder to find the continuous stream of RP that allows you to actually interactively write with others, and world build, so to speak, in their world and do all that. So right now, I'm just hanging out and hanging out with a lot of DJs and things that go to the club events and all that. basically, and my FC, and
Awesome.
that's about
I
it.
know I've asked this before of a guest, but I've never been clubbing myself. What piece of advice would you give someone who's never been in that community if they want to try to dip their toe in?
I would say definitely watch the music that they link.
Mm.
It's kinda weird without it, you just hear, like, feet on the ground, like a million feet, and just see people dancing. Definitely don't I don't know how to say this. Keep your expectations that you're just gonna go and enjoy whatever the DJ is playing and dance your character. And if you get grabbed on and pulled into a community, awesome. If not, you were there and you enjoyed the music and you enjoyed other people enjoying the music, right? I think some of this the pressure is the same as real life. Like it comes from, is anyone gonna talk to me? Or am I just gonna be standing there by myself? It's like be okay standing by yourself and then it'll be okay. Because
Mm.
then people will talk to you. I've had it's a very good part of the community. Um, but just don't be afraid. Just go hit slash dance if or Manderville Mambo your way and just enjoy the time and then people will. You gotta message them first too. That's the biggest thing with Final Fantasy difference between other games, and that is a lot of people really wanna talk to you, but they don't wanna say the first word. But when everybody is that way, then nobody says anything.
Mm.
Be okay with just putting yourself out there. If someone's a jerk, then "Okay, screw it, I shouldn't have talked to them anyway. I'll just go find someone else to talk to." And, if at best you make a friend, so that works.
I think that is really good advice in game and in real life. Just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If someone's a jerk, that's on them.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think video games should be used to address social or political issues?
This is where I'm probably not popular opinion. I don't think so. I
Okay.
believe that they should be a place of neutrality where I mean, there's those things are always gonna come up in stories, right? But I don't want to log on a video game and have to be faced with the things that are troublesome for me. Like, I don't think it's the proper platform to be putting any kind of hot button, political or social issue. I think it could be used differently. So rather than addressing it in there, maybe say it's racism or homophobia or whatever, you counter that by just being inclusive with your games and not providing a space for people to naturally have those thoughts. So, having excuse me, having like you know, gender neutral character creations and having, characters of every sexuality in your game and you can do that without it being a thing. And I appreciate that so that people who are coming up right now don't have to worry about, you know, the weird social drama behind all of it. They're just like me. I was raised I didn't understand what race was. Like,
Mhm.
my mom never mentioned it to me. I didn't know anyone was any different, and that was just her platform, she's like, "This is whoever it is." It was never I never questioned it. I never thought anyone was different than me or anything like that, and I think that's the best way with video games too, just make them inclusive, make them address it, but not as, "This is an issue." I don't wanna be forced,
Okay.
but
Okay,
you
so
can
yeah,
definitely
they
do some
can
healing.
yeah, you can reveal your stance in the game without necessarily having it be an overt discussion or
Mhm. Just
confrontation.
like movies, yeah, like, movies
Yeah.
will definitely do that. They'll put, like, very strong messages in, and I find I'll be enjoying a movie, and then suddenly that happens, and I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
Like, "Please, I just wanted to enjoy the movie." So I know a lot of people are pushing for that, but for me, I'd kind of like to keep it out of there and just have it be used as a tool to teach inclusion and diversity and not bring up politics at all except for what's happening in the game.
No, you know what? That's fair. I mean, there's a lot of people who find video games to escape reality, and you don't necessarily want, reality sneaking into your fantasy.
Mhm. You gotta stay out of the shout chat sometimes, it gets wild in there. In Belmont
Yes.
especially.
You can silence that, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're sitting down to listen to a game's soundtrack, what one is it?
This is so so, I always listen to Legend of Zelda music because it has some of the best lo-fi versions, and that's really nice. Because it's just stimulating enough because you know the songs, that you don't totally zone out and go to sleep, but, but it's still relaxing. So I would say Legend of Zelda is but I mean, my all-time favorites are Legend of Mana and
Oh,
Castlevania soundtracks. The intro to Legend of Mana, I literally get goosebumps and almost cry because I get very, like, physically affected by music, and I'm just like, "This is amazing."
I saw the teaser trailer for the new Mana game coming out on the, Game Awards last year, and so I am super hyped about that.
Yes, I can't wait.
And, for Zelda music, I've seen a couple of creators on YouTube that do, like, harp versions of it, and it is beautiful.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm.
It's very good. Those scores
Mhm. What game mechanic would you like to see more of in games of the future?
are amazing. I'm I'm not sure what to name it. So I have this thing even in Final Fantasy, in every single game that has crafting, right? I hate
Mhm.
that only, like, 10% of the items that you interact with can be used for it. So I'd love to
Mm.
see everything have a use mostly. Like, if I pick mushroom, why are they even here? You know? It's like, I'd like to see where a freedom, I guess, with crafting systems where you can kind of use anything to craft because that's realistic, you know?
That's
Maybe if
true.
you can't use that mushroom for cooking, it's used in, alchemy or something, or you can even break up the fibers to make something, like corkboard type material. I don't know, but that's just really something that always peeves me is how many various items you get in games and how few of them you can actually use. So I'd love to see the change where most of the things that you interact with are usable in some way rather than sell for 1 gil to a
There you go.
video.
No, that's a fantastic idea. I never would have thought of that. There's just so many items, yeah, that don't seem, especially with the gathering, that don't seem to have a purpose other than just skill ups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Which upcoming gaming technology are you most excited about?
This one is hard for me because I'm actually someone who doesn't look into things ahead of time, like,
Hmm.
you know, I've never been on Reddit. I don't browse, the internet that much for stuff. But I do know that playing classic WoW, there's a mod, um, that adds AI voice acting to the NPCs in WoW. So, instead of just getting every quest or whatever, you open the window, it's got the text, nobody reads it, but nobody reads it, and then
Mhm.
you close it, and it's just a very monotonous, repetitive thing. It adds different voice actors generated by AI, and it's honestly sounds human, and it matches, like, the undead sound like the undead, but not, like, just like the WoW voice actor. And it adds extra, like, dialogue to make it more human-like, so it's very immersive, and it's making my playthrough so much better. And I know that for a lot of indie games that can't afford to hire big ticket voice actors, um, that might help a little bit with an immersive world. Because I didn't realize until that yeah, I go around and I hear, like, nothing. There's never any
Mhm.
voices really besides, "Hello," or "Keep your feet on the ground." And it's like, "Well, what if I wanna go to sleep, okay?"
Time
You
is
just
money, friend.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just sent me on a griffin while saying, "Keep my feet on the ground." Come on. It's like I'm excited for stuff like that, but I'm also wary. I just wanna make sure that if we use these tools and technologies that AI is bringing in to the gaming industry, especially, that we also hire and use human talent. Like, if it ever becomes where we're not doing that, I don't think I will support AI. Um, in anything, not just in video games, but,
Right.
I am excited for what it can do.
No, and, have you had an opportunity to play Baldur's Gate 3?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
all of, like, the NPC interactions in that game are voiced, and it does make a really big difference in the
It
immersion of the
does.
game.
Yep,
So it would be exciting to see, like, even NPCs with tiny side quests being voiced.
yeah, like, everyone you talk to. And in this WoW one, it's maybe not random people, but even, like, vendors. You open it and they say some little snappy thing like, "Do you really got the money for what I got?" Like, something like that, To fit that's the undeads, like, it's not the night elves are probably like, "Hello," you know?
"Hey,
"How's all
how
my
you
wares?
doing?"
Yeah, how you doing? You want what I got?" It's like it's cute, but yeah, I love Baldur's Gate 3 for that. It's much more immersive, and
Mhm.
I'm the reason I love role play is I'm a story person. I've always written stories. I've always been a book lover. I love writing and I love experiencing other people's writing. So a game like Baldur's Gate 3 is also awesome for someone who always wanted to play D&D but was never invited. So it's
Oh, no.
my to be fair, small town, nobody played D&D there.
Aw. As a
But
as an avid
now
DVD play as an avid D&D player and, someone who went to university for creative writing, I'm vibing with that.
heck
Uh,
yeah.
do you have a favorite author you wanted to shout out?
So it's changed over the years. I think her name was Elizabeth Kostova. She's a historical fiction mystery writer. She is really good. I love obviously all the classics like Tolkien and things like that.
Hmm.
Growing up, I liked VC Andrews a lot, and that's now that I look back on it, that was a lot of stuff to enjoy. Like those books were always drama and crazy, but they were good reads. Like the way that she wrote was very easy for me to just finish a whole book in one
To
day,
consume, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to get me on the Sanderson kick. But there's just a lot. I've read the Tress of the Green Sea. I think it was a couple of months ago. That was really good. I do enjoy Brandon Sanderson's way of writing and the way he gives you enough without unfolding everything too quickly. And then at the end, you feel satisfied because everything did happen, like, all at once at the end, and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Aw.
And I heard he has a lot of books, but I don't think I can read all million of them. But yeah, I do. I liked a lot of different types of books growing up, but I think Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind, and, I think that's probably my favorite one right now. It's a little darker, but
Awesome. No, thank you for those shout outs. So I know there are a lot of people interested, in reading, especially in the creative side of the gaming experience, so, um, have you kept any old games or consoles for nostalgia?
oh, yeah. So I have my original Xbox. I had my GameCube, but somebody stole it, and now
Oh,
I'm so
no.
sad about that. Um, PS2, my original one, and my original N64. And I have for N64, I have Castlevania, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina, and Majora's Mask. Mario Kart, my prized possession. Um, and, like, some Xena fighting game
Oh,
'cause I
wow.
like Xena. And then I have one that's just for memes. If you are in my age group, there was an N64 game called War Gods that was a fighting game, and it was literally the worst game, and it was one of those that's so bad you have to play it and you have to own it, and it was like $2 for the cartridge, and it
Oh, wow.
has, like, Kabuki Joe, who's the meme character in it. It's a whole thing. It's so
I could
bad.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I thought for sure you were going to say Primal Rage at first because that's another very old, very
Yeah,
bad fighting game.
I did have that one, and, Duke Nukem and Turok Rage Wars. But my favorite the first N64 game I played was F-Zero X, the racing game, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
I need that. I lost my cartridge, and I can't find it for under a certain amount of money that actually plays,
Mm.
so I'm gonna have to look into it. And then PS2, I have probably 100 games at least, all the ones, Arc the Lad and Dark Cloud and, like, Shadow Hearts, which is an
Dark
interesting play style.
Yeah. I
Clock
was gonna
Tower
say
3.
Shadow Hearts, we've talked about in my community on stream before because it is
Really?
such a hidden gem.
It
Like, a lot
is.
of people who are looking to find, games of their past and to find remakes of them, like, that's a name that comes up along with Legend of Dragoon, yeah.
Yeah, it is, the play style I obviously love like, my favorite Final Fantasy is 9. It's like I
Mm,
like that Victorian kinda look, and that game did that, and then the interesting play style with the fate wheel thing where you have to click almost like a rhythm game to get it to happen was
mhm,
long before, press this button, then this button, like God of War type stuff. It was
mhm.
it was a unique game, and not a lot of people know about it. I'm sad, but I'm glad you guys do.
Yes, no, we've legit talked about it because it is one of those ones that stand out. Awesome. Does your Xbox still work?
Sometimes. I don't know why out of all 3 of those, and as much as I play them, like, the Xbox is hit or miss still,
Mm.
like, it works, but then sometimes, like, I think I put Fable in the other day, and it just started skitching out. I'm like, "No, please don't. Don't die on me. Stay with
Aw.
me." But nobody's fixing those nowadays.
No, no, but I mean, I don't even have to ask about the Nintendos because those things will go forever,
Yes,
and
you
I've
just blow
still
them
played on my
and you're good.
PS2, so
Yeah.
now my PS5, on the other hand, I've had to have repaired a couple of times.
Yeah, I
It's
got a PS3 was the last I had an Xbox 360 and a PS3, and that was the last time I bought consoles, besides a Switch,
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't play my Switch ever.
Oh.
I should, I know people they have Mario Kart, that's all I needed, so
You know, I just recently played the, remake of Mario RPG, and that was worth it, so
Really? I'm gonna have to look at that.
yeah, no, that was well done. What game do you wish you could experience again for the very first time?
This actually happened. It was Star Ocean's second story for the longest time. I have the old black PS1 discs, it was one of the ones that had multiple discs, and
Mhm.
I lost my memory card, so I lost my save, and, like, all
Oh.
that. And I was like, "You know what? I really wanna play that game again," but it's expensive, first of all, nowadays to buy the old game of it, and I
Mhm.
already did. So, I'm like, "Nah." And then I saw they were releasing an HD remake, and I jumped on that, and they kept it mostly like the old game. Um, that was a fear. They added fishing and some cool stuff that really actually only adds to the gameplay, but they didn't change the quests, they didn't change the storylines, they kept all the old, like, the cheesy battle voices, like, "I'm ready." You know, all the
Right.
and they would just say the cheesiest lines over and over, like, so I did get to experience that again. The cooking is different, I like the old version better where it was, like, this weird globby 3D spinning on the screen that would turn into mush if you failed. Now they have a cute little kinda like Breath of the Wild sound,
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah, okay,
screen.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's cute now, and the characters, like, jump around the screen while they do it, but, like, I kinda miss that, and then I'd say Final Fantasy 14 because when I joined was so different than now.
Mhm.
I really wish I could experience that whole thing again that I had when I started the game and had that same community and everything like that.
Now, you're one of the OG players who started, near the beginning of the game, like me, so we had every single expansion separated by, like, months and months of just filler content. Do you think people who start now and get to play the MSQ pretty much back to back to back to back through all those expansions have a different experience of the game? Or
I
or do you think it matters?
I think it does. I think a lot of the joy that I got from Final Fantasy 14 back in the day was the downtime,
Mm,
and it allowed a lot more time to do things like role play or figure out, other things to do with people, and 2 years is a lot, I guess, but having that extra year in between, it gave a lot of time to figure out, like, other stuff, and then get excited for the next expansion, and, then whether you liked the next one or not, you were still excited going in, so, you know
right.
and now it's like you could just play it as a single player game because you could just do the MSQ and then log off if you really wanted to.
So how many A Realm Reborn slash Heaven's Word relic weapons do you have?
Let me just be honest, only one. Only the
Ah!
healer one from Heaven's
There you
Ward.
go.
I got the staff from Heaven's Ward and I said, "Dang, I cannot ever again."
It's funny because I honestly think more newer players go after those than older players. I
I
think
know.
I think those of us who were there when it happened are just kind of like, "Yeah, no, I don't need this in my life."
Nuh-uh. Unless it looks good for a glamour, I'm not going for it. That's
That's fair, that's fair.
which the healer ones always do, so.
Mm. Are there any game companies you think are doing great work for their community?
I would love recommendations on this of people who are, because I think a lot of those that I would answer yes would be indie companies
Mm.
that are, I think Larian, I think they're
Oh,
very
yeah.
much taking a lot into consideration with the community, for Baldur's Gate 3, and I've seen where, like, even in Divinity and stuff, things that people love, they include in Baldur's Gate 3, and they listen to the community about things they like and don't like, and they don't get stuck in, "This is our vision, so screw off," kinda, like, if you don't like it, the game's not for you. No, they actually care about their community and making a game that is enjoyable, and it's not stuck in any kind of, like, box, I think, besides the obvious RPG. Um, I've seen some little indie game companies that are doing good. Interestingly enough, I think that I really want that to be a trend going forward.
Mhm.
Big companies, it doesn't always happen. Even, like, I love Yoshi P, and I think he's doing great things for the team at Final Fantasy 14, but Square Enix overall has been notoriously stubborn about things. They'll just say, "This isn't we're not doing this. Why? Because we don't want to." It's
Right.
like they did that with, poor Nomura in Final Fantasy 7. They waited so long to make a remake till they and their answer was, "If we remake that, we're admitting we can't do anything better than it." I'm like, "No." Some people just want nostalgia, come on? So
Yeah.
I think there's people within game companies that I think are doing great work for the community, but I'd like to see it being more the whole company overall rather than, what we're dealing with right now. Game industry's kinda weird right now.
A little bit, yeah. So, for example, Larian with Baldur's Gate 3 has put out about 40 gigabytes worth of extra content for free after their game's release. Like, just in terms of extra items, post MSQ kind of content. And a lot of people are suggesting that they're setting an unrealistic standard. Like, should other gaming companies be following that lead, or is it truly unrealistic for these companies to put the type of effort in that they seem to be doing?
I think it's the only way forward, and I think it's okay to charge, whereas they're not, but if you need to charge, I would rather pay you 15, $20 for some extra content, as long as you actually cared enough to go develop it and do well with it, and it wasn't just a money grab.
Mm,
Um, I always say, like, as gamers and consumers, we're the ones who create the standard that we have to live with, because people are going to do what is successful for their business. So if we're throwing all of our money into all early access, not even finished games, we're throwing them into gotcha games, like things like that. We're not demanding a better product. They don't have to do a better product. So just expecting companies that don't have to do it to make their money to do better isn't really working. So what we need to do is find a way to balance that. Like, whereas consumers, we don't just throw money at stuff that has nothing to it, but we do reward people who put extra development time in and who put that spirit and that creativity into it and allow us to kind of have a meaningful relationship again like we did in the old days. And I think
Mhm.
hopefully they are setting an example. Um, but I'd give the Larry and I'd give them money for DLC. 40 gigs. I'd give them $20, you know? They
Right.
chose not to charge, and I admire that, but I do think that it's funny seeing kind of that and the Pal World thing where they took 10
Mm.
grand and had no creative vision, just wanted to make something people enjoy, and it became so crazy. Like, it's good examples of both sides. Like, if you're gonna be
Mhm.
creative and passionate about it, still take some money for it, but if you're not, it's okay, just make something people like, so we spend our money on something that's worth it, and I think those 2
Right.
things need a marriage right now.
Right, and I mean, another good example that came to mind when you were talking is, Harvest Moon
Yeah.
versus Stardew Valley. So you've got an indie creator who created Stardew Valley in the heart and the spirit of Harvest Moon, to a fandom that was generally missing the feeling of those early games that we weren't getting with the newer ones. So should these larger companies be scared of indie creators who really can get that heart experience, to these content consumers? Like
And I'll put on both of my hats as an indie game enthusiast. Yes, be afraid. As a business, you know, person, I think you shouldn't be scared. You should be able to get past your own mind and your own eye to see what works and then do it. Because it's similar company for Pal World versus Pokemon or Stardew versus Harvest Moon. It's like I love Nintendo and they did a lot for the gaming industry, obviously. And they
Mhm.
always said they wanted to change how we play, not just put out games. And they did that. They've brought us more peripherals and different ways to play games than any other company. But it's the same thing where the community is upset because, like, Pokemon's the biggest franchise and they won't put out things they just don't care. They
Yeah.
won't put things out for their player base, and I think Stardew was the same. We all loved Harvest Moon, but, there was, like, one after the N64 version I enjoyed, and the rest were kinda
Mhm.
just sloppily put together and didn't play well, or honestly, one of them gave me such bad motion sickness, I couldn't
Oh,
I
wow.
couldn't even play it, and it's like, if it works and it made you money, keep doing that. That's business. They're d and that's pretty much everybody's opinion if you look on the internet right now with Pal World is, look, it's not exactly and yes, they don't deny they took great, creative
Inspiration, yeah.
inspiration from Breath of the Wild and Pokemon and all that. It's like, but they did what you wouldn't. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and it wasn't even an ethical thing, they weren't trying to make a statement, they're like, this'll make money, and, people will like it, so just make a product people like, and that's all it takes, and I think as a game company, that should be your main priority, not, sitting in the background like, "Eh."
No, and that's right. Like at the end of the day, we as gamers do speak with our dollars. And if we're ultimately just putting money behind the products we like instead of the companies we want to support, then it's gonna make an impact.
Agree.
What changes do you hope to see in the gaming industry in the next 5 years?
What we just talked about for sure. Like,
Yeah.
we we need better quality. I love the idea of early access because it allows creators the money they need to finish things, right?
Mhm.
But it's also created a monster where we never get finished products. Um,
Mm.
and a lot of games will be in early access for 5 years. 6 years, you know, or never leave early access, and I think that has caused good and bad results. So, going in the next 5 years, I'd like to see more completed games being released, because right now it seems like 80% of the things I wanna play are all early access, not actual releases. Um, I'd like to see more accountability in the game industry. Um, and like we were talking about, choosing a side, like if you're not going to be all about a creative vision or you have something to do with like, this is why I want to make this game and stuff, I will support that 1,000%. But I will also support just being straight up that you're a game company, you want to make a game people buy and love. That's fine. But I don't like all the in between stuff. So, and I want to see less of this weird trend where every big release, there's some kind of like toxic garbage news campaign. Like
Mm,
you used to see articles like, wow, this game's coming out. Now you see the problem with this and the problem with that. And
right, right,
like
yeah.
the most dramatic, inflammatory, you know, press about all these games, even though they're not really that bad. Like Cyberpunk, it happened really bad with, you know, and
Ugh.
just disgusting articles that you know are there because people click them. And that's an us thing again, right? If we didn't click them, they wouldn't exist because people wouldn't go, "Oh, I'm gonna get clicks for this." So that's kind of on us too. But I really wanna see less of that. I just wanna see a more positive, creative, or just straight up creating, like, game industry that's not about all this weird drama and the politics and the all of that stuff.
No, and you make a really good point. So, media companies, YouTubers, all of that, they are being paid by click, and they're
Mhm.
exploiting a human, biological concept that we want to click on bad news because we need to prepare ourselves. But I think we're getting to the point where we're so oversaturated with negative news that that might change, and we become more biologically, desperate for good news that we start even clicking on more positive stuff naturally just to soothe ourselves and make
Yeah,
ourselves feel a little better. Like,
I do
our
that.
yeah, our entire consuming of social media might change more towards the positive in the next 5 years just because we're so overloaded with negative news.
I really, really hope so. I really do. I don't even that's why I said I don't really peruse the internet, like, I don't go on Reddit,
Mhm,
and there's a lot of good so this is the hope in that. No matter where you look, as crappy as it is, there's gonna be some positive in it. If you look
mhm.
for it and find it, that's there. But for me, I avoid, like, the real news, and I avoid if there's something going on in my community, I know. If there's something big going on in the world, like a war, I know that, but I don't need to know every little
Yeah.
detail that's negative that goes on because I can't do anything about it.
Mhm.
And so I kind of shield myself, in a bubble, if you will, where I let the big important things through so I know what's happening with others because that's an important part of being a human. But I don't sit and pander on it, and I don't let people over expose me to things. And it's the same for the internet. If I see these articles and then there's one that talks about even something boring like, here's a mechanic, I'm going to click the mechanic one. And I'm not going to click
Right.
this, why this is a ripoff of this and it's the worst thing ever article. Because I know what that's doing. It's sending data directly to them that is successful. And that's what they're going to
Yes.
click.
And then they're
That
going
makes
to show you more.
yeah.
Um, and social media is horrible about that. I don't know. Reddit is a little bit of a cesspile sometimes, but X is just as bad. Like if your eye even hovers for a couple of seconds longer on a post that is negative, suddenly your timeline is just filled with that kind of stuff. Like it is
Makes sense,
bad.
yeah. I've never
Yeah.
used it since they switched. I don't think I used Twitter since, like, 2016, but I just I know I'm gonna have to make one for streaming and things, and I'm just like, "Please don't do because I know it's so hard not to look at it, right? If you're just like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna go upload my stuff for my community, I'm gonna jump off." It's like there's all this stuff right there. It happens when you open your phone if you have a Samsung. Like, as
Yep.
soon as you open it, and go to search Google, there's, like, all these news articles, and I try my best to ignore it, but some of them I just
Yeah.
they get me with the, like, clickbaits of, like, science news,
Mm.
like, "We've discovered this thing on the moon, this element on the moon," and I go in and then they say, "We've been studying it for, like, 10 years." I'm like, "This isn't news." Damn it.
They know the way to your heart. Yeah.
They do. Get me with that physics and science stuff, dang.
Oh. Are there any upcoming game releases that you're particularly excited about?
Visions of Mana.
Yes.
I'm so excited. If they keep true to the franchise, it'll be really good.
Mm.
Very, very good. I think we're a lot of us are still waiting for that. I can't remember the name of it ever because it's been like 10 years. The MMO that some guy is working on by himself, like a passion project. It's gonna be cool. I can't remember the name of it.
Mm.
Um, and then I don't know if it's officially canceled. Someone could break my heart today, but, I've been waiting on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 for, like, 5 years, and it was supposed to be released in 2021, and it's 2024, and it never came. So I'm still excited either way.
I empathize because I'm a Dragon Age fan, and I've been
Eh,
waiting 10 years for the next Dragon Age game.
I am
So
about to replay all the Dragon Ages just 'cause I'm just like,
Ah!
"Okay, you're not giving me a new one, I'm just gonna play all the old ones."
What's your favorite? What's your favorite one?
Inquisition, I think. I
Okay,
think
okay.
I think that's just the one I've played the most, but the first
Mm,
one was groundbreaking, you know?
yeah. No,
The
it
same
has my
I don't
heart.
yeah, I don't like necessarily the other Vampire the Masquerade games, but I like the Bloodlines that we played on PS2 or computer, just because it played a lot like that, you know, you'd click, people interact with them, and your what you did had consequences, and I miss Dragon Age, you
Yeah,
hit the
no,
nail.
that's another story. If anyone doesn't know what's gone on with BioWare and Dragon Age, there's a couple like 2-hour videos that Jackdaw on YouTube has put out trying to explain it. So I'm not gonna try to recap any of that. It's just been a disaster.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. For me too, because I wanna play it.
Now, speaking of the mana games, like we mentioned Legend of the Dragoon earlier as being one that seemed beautiful at the time, and you look back now, and it's very polygon, very dated. But the mana games, those are still beautiful. They were
Yeah.
always beautiful. Like I am super excited about what they can do with a new one of those.
Yeah, they knew how to balance the art style, and
Mhm.
that is why I became in love with the art was video games, you know? It's
Wow.
I've always been into music since I was little. I was kind of raised in that whole triple threat thing that happened in the '90s, you know? You gotta sing, dance, and act, you know?
Yeah.
So I've always loved that, but, like, the art was from games like Legend of Mana. That was the most
Mhm.
beautiful thing I'd ever seen,
Yeah.
and they knew how to paint backgrounds, and then
Yeah.
they would save those resources to use on the actual characters, and they didn't try to over 3D it or anything, you know? It was very good, and I think
Yeah.
that it's funny, I feel like it's kind of gone back around where we went super 3D with everything, and now we're kinda going back. Like, this takes a lot less time and resources to create something beautiful and not worry about people's systems not being able to handle it and things like that, so I'm excited.
Yes. No, I would absolutely love a return to some 8-bit graphics if it meant better stories, like, Octopath
Mhm.
2, is a really good example of some 8-bit type, play styles, but some really good storytelling.
Yeah, I think it's missing. We exchanged graphics for we got rid of the
Yeah.
story and shortened it up, and I think I think that we are showing, and this is one thing where you can love or hate how Steam has affected the, industry, but one thing that I do appreciate about Steam are the indie developers there and the fact that they've given a platform for even the smallest person to get exposure for their game, even if it's free or they sell it for $2, you know?
Mhm.
But I'm noticing people appreciate it. pixel art in pixel art games are, like, on a rise again,
Yep.
and it's because people who can't necessarily go in Blender and make a, fancy Final Fantasy level, game can still tell their story. They can spend time on the crafting system or the quest system, and not lose anything by doing art that way. I'm pretty excited about the whole 8-bit graphics and stuff that's kind of a resurgence.
Yep. No, keep going with that because, definitely I am willing to sacrifice some graphics for some good storytelling.
Same.
If you could magically create your own game on this topic, what would it be about?
This is actually already something, like, I haven't implemented it, so I don't call myself an indie game designer, but I am in the background since for, like, 5 years designing, like, assets and
Oh, wow.
kinda designing my own game, but I have no way to implement it because I don't know programming, you know?
Mm.
So I'm like, "Oh, I'm learning Unity and stuff," but I'm like, "Ah, even if it never happens." It's an RPG that plays a lot like all those RPGs we love, Um, you you start off in a town and there's a person and you figure out there's this thing you gotta do, right? But it's got a lot of crafting and the story is tied into the crafting rather than crafting be peripheral to the story.
Oh.
Um, so you actually have to take jobs and crafting to complete quests for certain people because that's what they want, and, um, it does that. It also has, like, mini games as part of your quests, like, say you go to this person and they're like, "Crap, I can't figure this out. I wanna help you, but I'm busy," you know?
Right.
You have to help them figure it out, whether it's a match 3 or whatever it may be. I have a few of those in there. I would say kinda like Golden Sun, but with a crafting and mini game system is what it's kind of turning out to be. And it's the recipes are, like I said, where everything you gather you can use for something. That's just something that I'm really I really like. So, I
See,
don't
that
know what
sounds
you'd call it.
amazing. And I think there's been a lot of those type of games recently, like with, I don't know any titles in particular, but alchemy shops and that sort of stuff. There's been kind of a bit of a surge in that genre.
I think we're learning that we something really plays to our biology about survival games and crafting games, and
Mm.
we're doing a lot less of it in our actual physical world, but I think it's picking up in the game world, so
I need to
cha-ching to those who care
create.
about money and yay! Yeah. Yay for those who don't care about money, but just like creating.
But you know what? Just hold on to all that stuff because guaranteed there is some coder or some programmer out there who is really good at making physical assets, but not good at storytelling, who is looking for someone with a story.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I've got, like, a lot of the dialogue, I've got the characters, I've got some of the assets for the world, like the things, like
wow.
the trees and the maps and the I got a lot of it, and the music even, but it's like, what am I gonna put this into? I don't know yet. I was using
Okay.
RPG Maker, but it wasn't enough,
Mm.
so
So you heard it here. If you are watching this and you create games for a living and are looking for your next project, definitely hit her up.
I can do everything but the hard stuff.
There you go. How do you think AI will change gaming in the future?
I I think, like I said, it's gonna be a double-edged sword. We're already seeing, just with a little bit of AI in, like, a year, a lot of layoffs in a lot of companies
Mm.
where they're opting to hire or not hire, but use AI in place of people for cost reasons and efficiency reasons, and part of that's as humans, we just gotta be better, but part of it is just not fair. It's not gonna there's
Yeah.
no competition. Um, I'm really hoping that AI will implement some ways for early access to be lessened by maybe there's things that AI can detect that are bugs and they can have because really I dropped out of college, but a lot of my friends who graduated with their game design degree are just like man, I can just only get a job as a tester or whatever. And it's like, if you have only AI in the future, those people won't have any job.
Yeah.
It's very concerning, but I think they need to find a way to make them work together. So I think making human jobs easier is is how it's gonna change, but as long as we don't cross that line where we take the jobs away from humans,
Mhm.
um, and I think it's going to allow graphics to go insane. It already is, as far as I know, like, being able to, like, actively, change things as a player goes through the world, and, I think it's gonna allow indie developers to do bigger things. Um
Mm. Mhm.
The ethics of it, I don't know, but I know, like, right now, if you're not an artist, you can go generate some AI art and at least I think there needs to be rules about using that as your own asset, but, for copyright stuff, but even just using it, which they is one of the dramatic, "Ooh, did Pal World use AI to rip off
Right.
Pokemon?" It's like, I could see them putting a Breath of the Wild armor into an AI generator, taking what it spits out, and then making their own. Like, I don't think that's right to do as a creator. Just because 'cause I'm an artist, I don't really like the
Yeah.
idea of that. But if you're an indie company, like a one-person show, and you have no clue how to draw a certain type of tree, and you look it up and you're just failing, and you spit it into AI and it brings out something that's less technical that you can kind of go off of. I think it's okay to use as a reference because that's no different than looking up a picture of it on the internet,
Right.
as long as you're not just taking an AI asset and putting it in your game. But I think people will. I think they're gonna do it, but I don't think they should. But I think it'll help if people use it like any tool and don't let the tool take over. It'll be okay.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah. It should be supporting people and not replacing people. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could recommend everyone on Earth play one game, which one would it be and why?
That is the hardest question I've ever been asked.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna go with Mario Kart. Honestly, I'm gonna say Mario Kart because it's gentle competition. It's not like severe, and the way you lose is always funny. Like I mean, it's not like I notoriously always get thwarted by my own attempts to thwart others. Like every shell I throw, I run into it myself, and every banana, I end up circling back around and spinning off on it, whatever. But I think it's it's good for giving you that whole "I like video games" feeling, right?
Yeah.
And if you lose, I mean, it's not like I've never gotten angry at Mario Kart, but it's a lot less than other games. Like, I hate the ones where you can fly off the edge real easy and you get fished out because it's like the
Rainbow
whole
Road.
game.
Looking at
Yes.
you.
Yeah. Oh my god, I cried about Rainbow Road, and I was already a teenager, and I think I cried in my 20s too, and now I've just avoided it for most of It's like, I think it's got a good level of challenge without being overwhelming. It introduces you to game characters that are known and loved, without it being like you have to be a 100% gamer all the time. And I've never met anyone who played Mario Kart and didn't at least enjoy what they did. So I think it's a good game for like all audiences.
Awesome. I think we all need more Mario Kart in our lives.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This conversation was an absolute pleasure. If people wanted to hear more about you, where could they find you?
I Yeah, at twitch.tv/nanonymphy. I'm a little baby streamer who I'm attempting to stream 4 times a week, if life allows. And then we just hang out in the Discord, which is all on there. And we just even if I'm not live, we just play games. We stream to each other in the Discord, and we just hang out because I'm more about the community than anything. I don't care
Aw.
about that much, but I like everyone else.
That's awesome. Oh, yay. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, just thank you for having me. I'm so happy to meet you finally. I've heard a lot about you, and It was great to be here with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope we can collab again in the future. And gamers, thank you so much for watching. If you know a creator or you work in the gaming industry and you also like Final Fantasy 14, shoot me a message. I am still looking for people to interview for this season. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you in game. Bye.